Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another video. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about Pokemon Pocket one more time, because I get a lot of questions about this game. I predominantly do Snap content. That's what I've been doing for like the past 2 years, and now Pocket's coming out. Really enjoying that game, starting to do content on it as well. And I think the big question for a lot of people in the Snap community is, can Pokemon Pocket reasonably compete with Snap? And that's what today's video is going to be about. So I've put in quite a bit of time since the early access period with the New Zealand soft launch in Pokemon Pocket. Very similar to how you could get early access to Snap back in the beta. Just by going through the Philippines, except this time for Pocket, it's New Zealand, ahead of its global release on the 30th of this month. So I've had a good amount of time with the game. I've got to experience the collection system. I've got to experience hours on hours of the battling and whatnot. And I feel like I've had enough time with it to get a reasonable opinion, not just on the game itself, but where it stands in relation to Snap. So I'm probably going to throw some pack openings or gameplay of the game up here on the side, just so there's something to look at while I go through the different points I want to make about this game. The first thing I want to bring up, and I think this is going to be one a lot of people agree on, is how does the gameplay compare? Is Pokemon Pocket competing with Snap in terms of like the gameplay experience? And that is the one spot in the game where I think the games aren't really competing with each other super hard. They're both trading card games, but the gameplay is so vastly different that as a card game enjoyer, what I enjoy about Snap and what I enjoy about Pokemon Pocket are two very different things. Like, they just aren't super comparable to me. So if you're hoping that Pokemon is going to be like Marvel Snap in that regard and have very similar gameplay, it just doesn't. It's not. It's completely different. It's its own thing. And it's much more akin to more traditional based card games than something like Snap, which is fairly different. And honestly, I think that's great. I think it is good that both these games do their own thing. I enjoy them for different reasons. And it's because of that reason, I think a lot of the people who really enjoy Snap for its gameplay aren't going to just suddenly find that being replaced if they pick up Pokemon Pocket. However, that doesn't mean I don't think these games will compete with each other, because I've noticed something in playing Pocket that really reminds me of the early days of Marvel Snap. And what that is the fact that Pokemon Pocket is very good at being quick enough with its gameplay to where you just want to play one more game. And I think that is the thing that Snap got so right with its gameplay formula in terms of the games being quicker, just by their nature, or sometimes by, snapping and people retreating earlier on in the game. The games are faster. That is what has separated Snap from all the other card games in the market, is these fast-paced games where you can pick up your phone and you're not getting into a 10, 20, 30-minute commitment of a long, drawn-out game. It's only going to be a few minutes and then the game's going to be over. And if you have more time, you can play another one, or you can just close out the app and move on with your life. And so far, Pokemon Pocket's the only other card game that I've really got this feeling with, where the games are fast-paced enough to where I find myself constantly wanting to go for just one more game. And I think that is a very addictive and successful formula. And so that's one of the main places I do think this game is going to compete with Snap. It's for people's time. Now, Pokemon is a little bit longer than Snap. Snap does still have faster games, so it does have a little bit of an advantage in that regard. But the games aren't that much faster. Pokemon games can be just as short as a few minutes, depending on how opening hands and whatnot go. But on the flip side, I feel like the average game of Pokemon is probably a bit closer to like the 7-ish minute mark. So definitely longer than Snap, but not long enough where it feels like it is like as long as most of the other popular card games out there. One place where I do think Pocket is absolutely killing it though, and I think this is going to contribute to the game being quite successful, is I think it handles being a casual game better than Snap does. And let me explain why I feel that way. So, Snap is a pretty good casual game. It is a game that you can do the bare minimum in fairly easily in order to keep up with your daily quests and getting resources to help unlock new cards. But Pokemon is just easier. There is less requirement in terms of what you have to do if you do just want to log in and play one game for the day. You can essentially get all your dailies done doing that. For your dailies, you have to do 3 different little quests, one of which is just logging into the game. The other is opening a pack, which you can do for free 2 times a day. And then the third one can be a variety of things. You can play a battle, you can engage with wonder picking, which is like a different way to acquire cards and whatnot. It's just very easy to get the missions for Pokemon for your dailies done in like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that. Whereas Snap, sometimes, you get quests where the deck you want to play doesn't really support that. So you have to go out of your way a little bit, or you're just not getting those quests done. And then in terms of the excitement for what you get, Snap, you're getting credits. Credits are fine. They get you up the collection track. They get you to do splits. It's cool. But Pokemon, I think the pack opening is much more exciting to the average player, especially later on in Snap when you aren't really super excited about opening stuff off the collection track. Once you've gotten all your Pool 3 cards and whatnot, aside from maybe a cool random variant, people have not been super satisfied with the state of the collector's reserves in a long time. They just aren't super duper exciting. And don't get me wrong, packs sometimes aren't exciting either when you're not getting good stuff, but you will get some good stuff eventually, and those lead to very exciting moments. And as far as being a free-to-play game goes, getting to just rip 2 packs a day feels pretty good. You're not getting that in Magic or Hearthstone. It is just rather good in terms of like the amount of stuff you get for free. The next area I want to talk about is pricing. I think pricing is going to be a big one for many people, myself included. And it's no secret, Snap is kind of expensive to keep up with if you're trying to get all or most of the cards. And that's by design, right? In their card game, Marvel Snap doesn't want most players to have all the cards. And I will forever think that is one of the stupidest things I have ever heard of in a card collecting game, where they go out of their way to make it very obtuse and difficult and expensive to collect all the cards because they don't want most people having that. Like, the fun of card games to me is having options and being able to explore all these different things. It's what I've always enjoyed about card games, and Snap makes that harder. They just do. And the whole Spotlight Cash system really does feel a lot like a cursed D4 when you are a collection complete or mostly collection complete player, as your odds of getting the new card, it can be so much more costly, all depending on RNG. Sometimes you'll 1 or 2 key a week, other times you'll 4, and that 4 feels really, really bad. Compared to Snap, Pokemon is way cheaper, at least so far. This could change over time. It depends how often they are putting out sets, how big those sets are, etc. But I'm just going off of the base set that we're having at launch, and Pokemon is just a lot cheaper than Snap. Even when Snap first came out, I had a head start because I played in the beta, so by the time full release came out, I was a little bit over collection level, I think 1,000 or so, maybe 1,200, something like that. So I had a bit of a head start, and even then, in order to get access to more of the cards, to be able to pursue more decks for content creation, get through Pool 3, get resources for the upcoming Pool 4 and Pool 5 stuff they were launching shortly after initial release, it was expensive. I spent a few $100s to get that stuff done in order to be able to produce better content. And then when Series 4 and Series 5 came along, it continued to be very expensive to keep up with new releases, not to mention many of the struggles that happened early on in Snap, where it was kind of hard to acquire new cards on release, even if you had the resources. It was just kind of a bumpy road to start out. And so far, that has been the opposite of my experience in Pokemon. For Pokemon, I'm doing content on it, so I decided to spend some money on the game. But before I spent any money, I engaged with the free-to-play system for the first few days, and man, they give you a lot of free stuff early on, which, I mean, Snap does the same. These games are front-loaded, right? But one of the cool things you can do in Pokemon is you can actually re-roll your account, essentially. So they give you all this free stuff early on, but if you don't like what you got, let's say you had bad luck, or maybe you're aiming for a certain deck. Maybe you want to play a Charizard deck and you didn't get any Charizard cards. You can delete your account and make a new one, and you can just roll it again, and pretty quickly you get access to a lot of these early packs again. You can open them up, you can see what you got and decide if you want to keep this or if you want to roll again. And that has been, I think, a huge benefit in terms of just helping people go after the things they really want, whether that be a specific chase cosmetic, because I think the cosmetic alt arts in Pokemon are going to be a big thing a lot of people end up chasing. Or if you just want to play a specific deck, if you want to play Charizard, if you want to play Mewtwo, if you want to play Pikachu, just being able to guarantee at the start of the game that you're getting the cards you need for that specific deck without having to rely purely on pack RNG is a real big boon to the game, in my opinion. But I've also spent money on the game, and I do think if you're a casual player, if you're someone who wants to engage with the game casually and doesn't want to get super deep into it, but just wants to have a little bit of fun on the side, open packs, collect some cards, play some battles, whatever, Pokemon basically has the same kind of thing as Snap, where they have a $10 monthly pass. However, unlike Snap, you're not getting a exclusive new card in the pass. The pass is more cosmetic focused, so you do get some fancy alt arts, you get some bonus quests, which do give you more resources to help you get more packs. And probably the biggest thing of all is it gives you an additional pack a day. So on top of the 2 packs you get for free, you get 1 additional to open each day for 3 total. And in terms of like general value for what things cost in the game, that is by far the best value. It is the cheapest way to get access to more packs. You won't get them all at once, like if you're just buying the premium currency, but it really does add up over time and is significantly cheaper than the other ways of getting packs. In terms of my experience with spending money and what I got for it in Pokemon, I dropped $200 on Pocket to open a bunch of packs, and I can play almost every deck in the game. There are like 2 or 3 cards I'm missing a second copy of. There's only like 1 lower rarity card I'm missing that I could craft if I want, but I'm holding off and hoping to get it in the packs. But in general, for $200, I can play almost every deck in the game. And that's kind of crazy to me, coming from Snap. Now, obviously, luck is a factor here, right? Like, it's booster packs. Some people will get worse packs than others. I think generally I had a little bit of luck on my side in terms of getting the things I was looking for. But in general, I feel rather good about that experience. I have a plethora of different things to engage with and try out and have fun with, and I feel like I'm definitely getting my money's worth out of it. And I've hit that point where it's like I'm not going to spend more money outside of, you know, the monthly pass thing until another set comes out. Like I'm content with what I have. I have the vast majority of the regular cards and a bunch of the fancy alt art ones. And so packs have become less valuable to me to where I don't want to pay for them. So I'm just going to open my free ones and maybe I'll get some cool stuff and whatnot, but I'm going to save my resources for upcoming sets. And that's kind of the benefit of paying some money to get things faster, because then you can save your free currency for future sets and whatnot. But I still had a really good time with the game early on when I didn't spend any money. I felt like there was stuff I could do. It definitely is slower working towards more decks once you get past that initial like showering you with packs at the start of the game period. But if I was approaching it as a casual and not a content creator, I think I'd be okay with that. I think I would be totally fine with just jamming, you know, the 1 or 2 decks I put together and just having fun with those while I gradually collected more cards. One of the biggest worries I had before Pocket came out was they kept showing all this stuff about collecting and whatnot. And I was worried the game was going to be focused too much on collecting and not enough on the gameplay. I have to say, so far, those concerns have not been super founded. The gameplay has been really fun. It is relatively simplistic, but I think that isn't actually a con here. As someone who has never played the Pokemon card game before, this was a great introduction to a more simplified version of it. I've been having a ton of fun with it, and I think generally speaking, the game is rather well balanced. At least so far with the base set. There's a lot of variety in the types of things I'm able to play and play against, and I think that will only increase over time as more people expand their collections. I will say I still have to hand it to Snap in that I think Snap does their fancier cosmetics better. Pokemon does have some very nice alternate arts and whatnot you can open from packs. However, their kind of system for making cards look fancier does pale in comparison to what Snap has done with the splits. So I'm hoping that's something they improve on over time, as I find like getting a cool inked or a gold split in Snap is significantly cooler than adding secondary effects to my cards in Pokemon. And then speaking back on the acquisition system again, outside of packs, there is a way to craft cards as well. However, the crafting resource is definitely more limited. Even as someone who spent a good amount of money on the game, I'm not drowning in crafting resources, and I try and use them sparingly. I do have a handful here, and if I wanted to, I could craft pretty much the majority, if not all, of the cards I'm missing to get a full collection, but I think the crafting resources are rather valuable because you only get them each time you open a pack. So yeah, I recommend kind of saving them up rather than using them, especially if you're going to be opening packs in the future, because when you craft a card and then you end up opening it like a few packs later, that can feel kind of bad. They also have something called wonder picking, which is basically you can see packs that people on your friends list have opened, and you can use one of the other free currencies to essentially get to pull one of the 5 cards from that pack, which is another way of acquiring new cards. That's actually how I've gotten a few of the more chase rare cards, is I saw, oh hey, my friend got this cool powerful EX Pokemon. I'm going to use some of this resource and I'm going to go for that 1 in 5 of pulling it. And I've been pleasantly surprised by how many times I've actually gotten like a good card from the Wonder Pick system. It definitely helps provide a little bit more agency in terms of acquiring the cards you're going after, rather than just chasing them in packs or using your crafting resource. The other big thing is trading. Trading's a big question mark right now. This is going to be, I think, the first digital trading card game in forever that actually supports trading. I don't think they're going to have it on launch, but I'm hoping it's not too far off of launch when it joins the game. I do think that will also massively help out with acquiring the specific cards you're going for. Obviously, it'll depend how they implement the trading system. There's no way there's going to just be a free trading system in this game. They are going to have to find some way to limit it. Otherwise, not only would there be a secondary market, but because people can reset their accounts, you could just have people farming alts and getting these cards and then trading the cards and whatnot, and that would definitely kind of tank their economy and business model. So I'm pretty interested to see how trading stuff is going to end up working and whatnot, but even with all of that said, I do think adding trading is going to be a net positive to the game, and I think it's going to be really cool that that's something we can finally do in a digital trading card game, because for the most part, companies generally do not like to add trading. Because it just is more of a hassle for them than a benefit. So yeah, those are my general thoughts on Pokemon Pocket and if it can compete with Snap. I stand by the biggest area I think it is going to compete with Snap in is just for people's time. I've noticed myself recently, I'm playing it a whole lot more than Snap because I'm just finding more fun in the gameplay. I'm also biased because I prefer the Pokemon IP to the Marvel IP. Maybe that's a hot take, but Pokemon is 3 times bigger than Marvel in terms of the general money earned over time. It's the largest multimedia franchise in the world. It's big, and I think the way this game is set up, it's going to have a rather large audience. Because I think with this base set, the group they're going after is people who are nostalgic for the original 151, since that's a lot of the base set in this game. Maybe you collected Pokemon cards as a kid but never played the card game. I know I did that when I was younger. The cards were just cool even though we never learned how to play with them. And I played through all the games and whatnot. I'm a big Pokemon fan, just never really got into the card game. And this game, I think, is very good at quickly teaching you the ins and outs while still having some strategic depth to it. So it's not auto-playing itself. You do actually have meaningful decisions you have to make in-game. Even though the game is rather fast and streamlined. I have heard from people who really like the regular Pokemon card game that maybe it's a little bit too streamlined and simplified. That hasn't been my experience, but I imagine if I was into the regular Pokemon game, my opinion would be different there. I will also say RNG is a huge part of this game, but something I like about Pokemon with the RNG and the coin flipping, because there's literal coin flipping in the game, on a lot of different cards, and it does change the outcome of games, is Pokemon doesn't try and hide that. Pokemon is very upfront with what you are getting out of the gameplay. Not everyone's going to like that, and that is okay. because some people just won't prefer that gameplay experience, but I haven't minded it because they're so upfront about it. Whereas with Snap, I feel like it has gotten more RNG heavy over time, especially with things like Arshim, where the game didn't used to be like that. And that has definitely left a bit more of a sour taste to me. Obviously, that's personal preference in terms of what you like playing or playing against and your general experience. I do appreciate that Pokemon is very upfront with what kind of game it's trying to be. One downside I will give Pokemon is that they do not currently have a ranked ladder system. So essentially the games are all just generally casual. You do get a benefit for winning. You get some player experience, which can level up your player level, which can get you resources and whatnot. But it's not too different than like Season Pass XP in Snap, where once you get to a bit of a higher level, the experience you're gaining is, it takes a long time to level up. So you're not getting a crazy amount of resources out of it or anything. But still, it does give you something. I do think a rank system would go a long way to improve, giving players something to chase. Apparently, there are some data mined assets and whatnot that do suggest there could be a ranked mode coming soon, TM maybe. We don't know if it's going to be a full ranked mode. We don't know if it's going to be like a event system. Who knows? We'll probably learn a lot more about this closer to or at launch, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I just wanted to give a quick rundown. If you're a Snap player who has been looking for something else to try out or just hasn't been feeling Snap recently, I felt that Pokemon has kind of filled that void for me. Still playing Snap, not planning on stopping, but probably the thing I appreciate most about Pokemon is that it gives me an alternative. Snap, I think, is easy to get burnt out on if you play it too much. That have super interested me in terms of like playing and streaming. Like Hearthstone, Magic, just don't really feel those games as much nowadays in terms of like doing content on them and streaming it and whatnot. Whereas Pokemon, I've had an absolute blast streaming it. We'll have to see if that lasts over time. Obviously, games new, games are more fun when they're new. I felt the same way about Snap when it first came out. But however many thousands of hours later, eventually the game doesn't quite hit like it used to. And that's just kind of a normal thing to have happen. So for me, Pokemon's been very refreshing, giving me a different card game to dive into, to learn the ins and outs of, to experiment with decks with, all that kind of stuff. I've really enjoyed that element of it, and I do like that it kind of wants to embrace the fact that it's more of a trading card-like game, whereas I feel like a lot of the decisions Snap makes is they're trying to make the game as appealing as possible for non-trading card game players, sometimes at the expense of people who really do like card games, as we saw with the recent developer Q&A about how they're going to be nerfing Scream and Kingpin to not hit unflipped cards because they don't want people who don't understand that to get confused, which I still think is one of the stupidest things I've heard. So yeah, I'm still doing Snap content. This channel will still remain focused around Snap content, but I did end up turning my old VOD channel into a Pokemon-focused channel, and that's where that stuff's going to be going. So if the game interests you, or if you just want to take a look at what it's like, see some of the decks, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to have content over there focusing on Pocket throughout this month and going into global launch. So if you're into that kind of thing, link will be in the description where you can check that out. But I'd like to hear from you. Have you tried out Pokemon Pocket yet? Again, it's only available in New Zealand right now, but it is not too hard to get your hands on if you really want to play it early. And if you are interested in the game, I would suggest playing it early, because if nothing else, even if you don't play a whole ton, just logging in, getting those 2 packs can be really good for helping you to build your collection, so you have a little bit of a head start by the time full launch comes around. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you liking Pocket? Have you not seen much stuff on it? How are you feeling about Snap currently? Do you like the direction the game is going? Do you not like it? I'd love to hear it. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.